Farah Maalim is the MP for Dadaab constituency. Good morning.
Morning to you. How are you?
I'm great, and thank you so much for joining this conversation. And is there any essence of really even having this conversation? Because we have some neighboring countries that have not been able to transition in terms of into term limits. But is there any evidence to show that indeed serving for long means well for a country? Is there any case that you'd make for 7 years times 2?
I certainly see a case for changing the system we have right now. I think the presidential system is a failure. Mm-hmm. We made a mistake in the first place going the presidential way. We should have gone for a parliamentary way. A prime minister who comes and attends parliament, who has a constituency, who is accountable to Kenyans on the floor of the house, and who has a deputy or 2 deputies as the head of the government, and a ceremonial president who is there just as a figurehead who literally plays the role that the Queen played in the United Kingdom, and has only a limited role of meeting envoys and the rest of it. So I do see a strong case for us to transit from where we are now to move into a new system. But the big issue of saying 2 terms of 7 years each for a presidential, for presidents, I don't think it's right. If anything, let's change from the system the way we have it right now and go parliamentary.
And in that process
because look, this constitution has been with us now for 13 years. Mm-hmm. We had a kind of a hybrid before. We had a president, but who also was from a constituency. The late Moi Kibaki was the MP for Odaya.
Right.
The late Moi was the MP for Cabernet Central, am I right?
Baringo Central.
Baringo Central. Baringo Central. The late Kenyatta, the first president of the country, was the MP for Gatondo.
Gatondo, yes, the whole of it.
Yes. So we literally got that 2 together, because the president could do a lot of things and literally be accountable to the country through being a member of parliament also. It made a bit of sense that time of marrying the 2 together. But later on we decided that we were going to transit and have either a pure parliamentary system or a pure presidential. The fact that we went the presidential system was wrong in my opinion from the beginning. And I was not too keen on it. I wanted us to go the parliamentary system. Mm-hmm. So parliamentary system, a prime minister can be there for 2 years, he can be there for 20 years. Netanyahu has been there for how long now?
He goes in, comes out.
Goes in and out.
He's from the de facto prime minister.
He is there for the longest, you know what I mean? And accountable to the people always on the floor of the house. And you can see him there. He has to do a certain role.
But what role? I mean, how would you elect the president who is ceremonial?
He's not elected. He is actually nominated by the ruling party.
By parliament.
Well, parliament actually is the one which ratifies that.
Okay.
But usually it's the party with the majority that decides on a statesman, somebody who's acceptable across the board. And I remember, for example, in India, one time they had that nuclear scientist, that very famous nuclear scientist, Alam somebody. And in many countries, that's what they normally do. They have somebody who's respected, who is a retired judge, you get my point, or a scientist, or a professor in the university, or somebody who essentially is a statesman, is accepted widely across, but again is nominated by the party that has the majority in the House,
okay,
and then passed by the House itself. It's ratified by the House, but he has ceremonial functions there. He has ceremonial functions there.
Okay, all right.
So but he doesn't have any executive powers, by the way. Very limited executive powers, and that includes asking the prime minister to form the government every time there's an election, and he looks at the party that has the numbers. Sometimes in this multi-party system, nobody has an absolute majority, so one is now forced to create coalitions.
Okay,
you see what I mean?
Is this something you'd been keen on pursuing?
Oh yes, I've been keen on pursuing this from day one. Because that way the country is going to be united. That way anybody can become the prime minister, and we will never see ethnic clashes, because it's a question of the party that has the numbers.
Okay.
You see what I mean? It has nothing to do with the numbers, the community numbers or those kind of things. It doesn't have anything to do with that. Just the party that has the biggest numbers in terms of members of parliament, and that's it. And that's why Tukudiu of Canada of Canada. He's still there. I don't know how many. Which time is he serving now? His third term or what is it? He's a young man. He's been around for quite a while. And that's why Tony Blair was there for the longest. You see what I mean? That's why Winston Churchill kept on going and coming back the same way Momoura is talking about me going and coming back, going and coming back. You know what I mean? Winston Churchill goes and comes back.
Okay, all right.
So basically what I'm saying is that that's the system. I think we need to interrogate and audit our constitution right now because we have cabinet ministers who are not accountable to anybody. CSs. These are civil servants. These are what do you call corporate bankers. These are economists. These are those people to run a system. They are not accountable to anybody. But when you have a prime minister, then the ministers come from parliament.
Okay.
And a community is in a position to understand as much as possible that cabinet also reflects the face of Kenya. And again, you can have a party that has following in every part of the country. In every part of the country. Every party will be forced to campaign and literally be involved in the development of every part of this country. You just don't put some 2-3 communities together and say, I have an absolute majority right now and I don't care about anybody. I'm just going to develop the areas. You know what I mean?
All right.
So these are the kind of things that I think we need to look at very closely and see how we can.
Okay, I hear you. Of course, the proposal